Greetings, Washington County. I'm Sheriff Jerry Clayton, and I want to share a few words with you. Recently, there have been several loud voices pushing back against the concept of community-based peers with lived experiences working to save lives through the anti-violence movement. I find this pushback to be short-sighted and irresponsible. Additionally, it is contrary to the national emerging best practice strategies for dealing with the epidemic of violent crime. This debate is larger than the vitriol directed towards one individual, the allegations of impropriety of a particular organization, or even the debate over a single commission decision. It is about the fundamental belief in redemption. Do we believe formerly justice-involved individuals should be restored to the community? It is about the ideals of alternative responders and who we believe should inhabit the space of being those alternative responders. If we truly want to prevent and reduce crime, we are in desperate need of individuals with lived experience to step forward to do the work of keeping neighborhoods safe, instead of continuing strategies with an over-reliance on police-centered solutions. Unfortunately, these loud voices are intent on denigrating the very idea of grassroots-led, community-based organizations run by Black men who are or have been justice impacted. It is repulsive and hypocritical. It simply must be exposed for the discriminatory thinking that it is. Justice-involved community members are just that, members of our community. Relegating them to a second class, not worthy of providing the same level of service to the communities they come home to, only serves to perpetuate the caste-like system that breeds the violence we say we want to eliminate. Make no mistake, the Washington County Sheriff's Office is committed to restorative justice. The idea that the way to prevent and reduce crime is to heal from the past and to move forward in the spirit of community. What better way is there for us to achieve this goal than for those who have wronged the community to be an integral part of healing? It must also be said that misinformation and vilification of formerly justice-involved individuals does irreparable harm to others who are currently justice impacted, coming back to our community and who are doing the right things to redeem themselves, taking care of their families and being productive members of our community. We want to send a clear message to those who have made mistakes, as well as those who have committed serious crime, but have done their time and changed their lives, that we in Washington County support you in your efforts, and that a few loud voices do not represent the masses within our community. As sheriff, my primary obligation is community wellness and safety. From this perspective, I share these words to not only express how important community-based peer work is to violence intervention, but to illuminate the critical role that they play in assisting law enforcement in dealing with violent crime and helping to keep our communities safe. At the Sheriff's Office, we estimate about 80 to 85% of the shootings we investigate are retaliatory in nature. So what does that mean? This means that the victim today is often the suspect tomorrow. And although, we believe our case closure rate is impressive, it's at 87%, well above the national average, which is about 50%, we also realize it's not enough to merely solve the crime after someone has been harmed. For true community wellness and safety, we must be willing to implement multifaceted approach that also operates upstream from a community-based perspective in order to prevent crimes, violent crime, and retaliation from happening in the first place. Excuse me. Although some may not like it, the fact remains that the most effective messengers are often individuals who at one time may have been the victim or even the perpetrator. And just as we pay our social workers, police officers, administrative staff, and others for their expertise, we must be willing to invest in the trusted messengers who are best positioned to be our anti-violence workforce. So I've often said that crime, and in this case, violent crime, is not exclusively a police problem requiring only a law enforcement solution. It truly is a community challenge that must be addressed utilizing deliberate and comprehensive strategies. Locally, the community violence intervention team's recommendations for addressing gun violence in Washington County speak to this type of balanced approach. They talked about combining accountability and empathy while blending appropriate enforcement with community investment. Their recommendations are founded in research, emerging best practices, and maybe most importantly, based on the lived experience of community. They recommend investing in the anti-violence workforce and funding innovative community violence intervention programs. And to their credit, these are the recommendations that the Washington County Commissioners followed and invested in. On a state level, Governor Gretchen Whitmer invested $30 million into communities with the highest increases in violent crime. She and her team highlighted a particular focus on community-based violence intervention and prevention programs. Her office also made a point of holding up the fact that CVI programs utilize credible messengers to directly mediate conflict, intervene before violence occurs, and connect people to needed resources. On a national level, President Joe Biden has directed millions of dollars into focusing CVI work involving credible messengers. Additionally, the administration also clarified in a memo that the American Rescue Plan's $350 billion in state and local funding can be used to invest in community violence intervention. And they went on to say that CVI programs have been shown to reduce violence by as much as 60%. They also stated that these programs are effective because they leverage trusted messengers who work directly with individuals most likely to commit gun violence. They intervene in conflict. They connect people with social, health, wellness, and economic services that we believe and know, and facts are starting to show are more likely to reduce violence. Additionally, these trusted members working in some of our most challenging communities throughout the country have suffered their own trauma because of physical attacks, loss of clients they were working with and attempting to save, and the loss of fellow interventionists based on the very violence they were trying to prevent. The fact remains that we have seen the positive impact of this kind of work here in the sheriff's office. Two of our most recent homicides were brought to closure due to community violence interventionists facilitating suspects turning themselves in. Additionally, one survivor who was shot multiple times and left for dead connected with our CVI program. And today, he not only survived the encounter, but he's thriving. He's employed, his family's housed, he feels safe, and he's no longer interested in retaliation. He credits community violence interventionists with changing his life and redirecting his path from retaliation towards peace. Therefore, those who question the decision-making process of an elected body or who debate the merits of a particular strategy do well to engage in reasoned discussion with those that made those decisions about their concerns, not to sabotage and vilify those folks that are today fighting in our trenches to save our young people and our families. For those who call into question the idea of redemption and alternative community-based approaches to violence interruption, or those who seek to discredit the anti-violence movement, I say this: you are misguided, and you're on the wrong side of history, and you are actively working against proven strategies which can save lives. Many victims or surviving family members will share that they never want another family to go through what they had to endure. And our focus on the full continuum of services and sanctions has always been rooted in preventing future victimization, not continuing to punish individuals that have already been held accountable for their previous behavior and have paid their debt to society. It is with victims in mind, and as your sheriff, that I ask you to consider the alternative CVI approach. Because isn't a protocol with potential to save lives worth implementing? Thank you for your time. I look forward to continuing our discussion and really all of us leaning in, working collaboratively and together to address one of the most pressing issues that we face in our country and specifically in Washington County. Thank you.